Well, it's 12 p.m. Feyzi, welcome to our live webinar on Zoom, How to Transform Your Leadership in Turbulent Times. It's great to have you here. How are you doing, Feyzi?
My pleasure. It's an honor to be here with you.
Thank you, Feyzi. And before we get started, I want to thank everyone for joining us today for our third oGoing webinar in the last 30 days. It's been a pleasure to have many of you with us. And some of you are repeating and joining us again, so thank you. Good afternoon, Feyzi. I'm so grateful, and we are really honored that you've joined us today. It's a special privilege to have you and have you participate today. So really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Sanjay. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Sanjay Dalal, the founder and CEO of oGoing. Folks, these are really tough times. Our worlds have turned upside down by COVID-19. America has already lost over 45,000 people. That's a lot of people in our fight against this deadly virus. It does make me really, really sad, and also makes me sometimes restless and anxious as to how soon we can find a proper cure or a treatment, for this. People have lost jobs, over 22 million and counting. Business owners, many of them have shuttered their businesses, unfortunately. And many folks really don't have money to pay their rents or even buy food at times. What we can't do is, though, lose hope in the midst of this big tragedy. And we, the survivors, have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to stay healthy, to stay safe, and hopefully do our best to help the members who need help from our community. I want to take this moment to thank, all of our brave frontline folks, who are working really hard 24/7. Yeah. Especially our doctors, nurses, emergency room workers, technicians, everybody who is helping save lives. And their selfless service, needless to say, and the care for the people who are suffering from this dangerous virus is just incredible. So thank you, really thank you. And I wanted to start off with this quote from Maya Angelou, and which I did share in my email to all of you who received it, hopefully. And I want to share it again in words. You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary sometimes to encounter defeats so you can know who you are, what you can rise from, how you can still come out of it. And that's by Maya Angelou, and a really profound quote, a lot of profound words. On that note, I'm going to ask Feyzi some questions. Today's webinar, it's great to have all of you online. Feyzi, how are you doing? How is your family and business dealing with COVID-19? And what are you doing to come out of it?
Right. First of all, such an honor, pleasure to be here among friends and a fellow former UT Austin alumni. That's you. Yeah, absolutely. We are coping. I've learned many years ago that we got to focus. There are things that are within our control. There are things that are outside of our control. And all we have is our personal energy as our asset. Yes. And our number one job, especially as leaders, is preservation of energy. Preservation of energy, not as a former solar engineer from UT Austin, yes. Specializing in power, right. But preservation of personal energy is our number one, number two, number three jobs, because without it, we as leaders, especially as parents, as employees, as just a fellow community member, that's the most important task, job, urgent, important to preserve our energy. And in order to do that, we got to shift our focus from things we cannot control to things we can influence and control. And stop the daydreaming and jumping from one idea to others, and focus on prioritize, focus, and streamline our efforts on what we can influence. For example, one One of my friends is leading the Stanford Medical Center laboratory. I try to be in touch with him every other day just to make sure that I'm expressing my gratitude for his service. And not only being in the medical environment, but also leading a team, inspire a team of selfless people there. So at least what is under my control is be in touch with my friend. Yes. It's like on Veterans Day, I try to call every single veteran that I know to thank them for their service. That's a very little thing I can do, but they're the ones who are winning wars, keeping us secure. The medical people are in the front lines. So what is within our control, that's what we can focus on. And from that perspective, we are sheltering in, try to minimize going out of respect for not occupying another hospital bed that somebody else who is in more need can occupy. Out of respect for others, we are trying to follow the experts' advice and at the same time focus on helping our business. To me, running a business is one of the most sacred activities in this world. Yes. Because we give people as business owners, our leaders, we create, as Ben Cohen from Ben and Jerry Ice Cream One, I had a pleasure of meeting him in New York, and he said he looks at business as a church of good values.
Church of good values.
Practice our good values within the context of a business. We help create jobs. We help people have dignity. We help people go home and pay that tuition, buy food, put food on the table. So running a business to me is a sacred activities that are focused on these sacred activities in whatever is under our control is the work of God, is a holy activity, no matter what spiritual denomination we belong in, that is one of the most sacred activities we can focus on. And I'm honored to be together with fellow business owners, and together we lead. We have to be conscious of our own energy, what energy we radiate to others, and what energy we get from them. And I'm trying to do my share of these kind of activities.
That's absolutely brilliant. Feyzi, I wanted to share a personal story as well. My nephew he works in New York. He is in the emergency room. He's an emergency room doctor. And he works at 3 different emergency rooms in New York, and New York has been struck really hard, as we all know. And, we have a WhatsApp group, our family, and he sent this personal message about almost 4 weeks ago, telling his parents, my cousin, sister, and, brother-in-law, about why social distancing is paramount. And they are social animals. I know my cousins, they're always meeting their friends all the time in New York. And he's telling them about a month ago, or a month to almost, I would say 40 days back, about what he's seeing in the emergency room and things that he has never seen ever before, and how difficult it has been, and sometimes they have had to make decisions about who to keep the ventilator for and who not to. And those were really tough decisions. I'm thanking God now that we have more ventilators available now than patients in New York, and things are hopefully flattening out. But from his vantage point, and then reading a lot of stories about emergency room doctors and what they have been doing, throughout the country, it's incredible, the level of service and what they have done, in these times. And it goes without saying that, America, we've been in the US since a long time, and I've been in the US since '87. When did you arrive in the US, Feyzi? What was your year?
January 1st, 76, when I was a kid.
So we have been through amazing things here in the sense of this country, and what's amazing about this country is we always fight back. There is that tenacity. We have that sense of, I would say, spirit. There is that spirit which is there amongst all Americans. That fighting spirit. Right. And I think we will fight this back. And before I go into the Q&A with you, Feyzi, quickly on oGoing, and thank you for also your support on oGoing. But we are growing. Our business community is growing. A quick blurb. We have 100,000 members. We just crossed that this month. It's been a long journey, but it's a great platform. It's a homegrown platform. It's like a LinkedIn for businesses. Would love all of you who are attending today to join oGoing community. The key difference between us and them is, every member that joins is verified and qualified. So you can be rest assured that each member or each business you're connecting to is authentic. And once you join our community, it provides you a great platform to boost your brand, boost your business, and really boost your SEO, which is your search engine ranking on Google and Bing and Yahoo, as well as boost your social media brand on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. So it's a great platform. Take it for a test drive. Any questions, give me a shout. You know how to reach me. So thank you all. That's my quick blurb on oGoing. And this is I wanted to introduce Feyzi formally. He is the CEO of Corent Technology. Feyzi Fatehi, he's also an alum of UT Austin. So we did our Hook'em Horns sign earlier. And a lifetime CODiE award, which some of you may know about it. It's for technology and innovation. He got this award last year in 2019. That's a huge accolade, and really it's he's in very select company of innovators. We're talking about Bill Gates, Woz, Steve Wozniak, Paul Allen, Steve Jobs, and some of them. And it's a huge honor to even think about CODiE and then to have the lifetime award. Feyzi, how do you feel about this award? I mean, I know we're talking about an award at this time, but at least I would like to have you share some of what you went through and the feelings thereof, and how do you feel today?
Yeah, first of all, my wife thinks there was a clerical error, and
okay, fine.
I got it by mistake. So otherwise, she thinks they set the bar very low. So putting that aside,
I'm glad your wife keeps you humble.
For those of you who are married, you know what that means. By the way, she was the head of QA for Apple, or at least one of the key influencers when Newton was there, the grandfather of iPhone.
Of course.
And at that time, I was at HP. But getting the same award that such icons and mentors, Steve mentored me for a short period of time, Jobs, and I'm totally humble. That's really the word. And besides the fact that I still give my wife's assessment some level of credibility, but at the end of the day, it's about supporting each other. It's about learning from each other.
Yes.
Life is too short. One of my mentors and executive coach, Marshall Goldsmith, the famous author of What Got You Here Won't Get You There, has a famous saying, and he's coming up with a new book. It says, in 100 years, we all will be dead. So, so let's not worry about titles. Let's not worry about ranks and so on. But be kind, be thoughtful. What's essential is how to serve each other. And we cannot serve others, especially as business owners, as leaders, until we ourselves are grounded, we are anchored, we emanate, we exude positive energy. Alan Mulally, another iconic figure. As a matter of fact, the book American Icon is written about Alan Mulally, former CEO of Boeing and later former CEO of Ford, who turned around Ford, I believe, about 18 billion loss a year to highly profitable company without borrowing a penny from government. He's also a good friend and friend of Marshall Goldsmith. He has a saying that CEOs, business owners, business leaders, as such, we don't own our faces. We don't own our own face, because the way we come across in the society, within the company, even with the stock analysts, they look at your face and the stock could go up and down, depending on what you radiate. Are you radiating confidence? Are you radiating worry? I was talking to a friend who works for a $25 billion public company in Orange County. And I said, how is the CEO doing, who's my friend?
Yeah.
And he said he's doing really well, but I can see in his face that he's concerned. I mean, that reminded me of Alan Mulally's that we don't own our faces. So as CEO, so it's very important how we feel, how we are grounded, be conscious about our own energy levels, but also it's important how we come across, how we are perceived by others. As leaders, non-leaders, it's okay. They can manage themselves, they can manage the tasks. As leaders, we are also should be concerned about how we come across. And that goes back to from inside out. The importance of inside out is exacerbated for the leaders as opposed to non-leaders.
Feyzi, and we are definitely going to come and talk about your leadership principles a little later. But not many Orange County owners really know much about you, Feyzi. You know, you're like our best kept secret. I don't know why, but you are. So can you tell us a bit about your background and how you yourself went through the learnings to become the technical and business expert that you are today?
First of all, you're very kind. Secondly, when we moved from Silicon Valley in 2001 to Orange County, initially we weren't sure. I had a gut feel it's a good move. And I discovered there are so many phenomenal business leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs in Orange County, and the whole aura of Silicon Valley has overshadowed us. So I started calling here Silicon Valley South by the power vested in me.
Silicon Valley
the tech coast. I can only speak for the tech sector, but the entrepreneurship is not limited to tech sector.
Sure.
And innovation is not limited to tech sector. So start calling it Tech Coast and the Gold Coast and all these brandings to bring more attention as opposed to Silicon Valley. My background, UT Austin, I was originally a mechanical engineer, shifted to solar engineer, and later did my master's in what later was called software architecture. The name hadn't been coined. And was involved with Honeywell to automate the first power plant in Texas. Automation was important. It was like the grandfather of IoT, Internet of Things of today, connecting the digital world to the physical world. And with all the control theories that we had studied mechanical engineering, Hewlett Packard hired me, Silicon Valley, January 86, and January 89, myself and 4 other people, every single one of them smarter than me, we invented the first real-time database, the fastest database in the world. If you remember, Chernobyl had happened in 86.
Yes.
A reporter said in 89 that if Chernobyl power plant had access to this database, it could have prevented the meltdown.
Oh, wow.
That statement stopped me in my tracks. I said, we thought it's fun and game to invent the stuff, get patent for the fastest database in the world, which is 30 years later, it's still the fastest database in the world. Those of you in technology, it's called HANA, SAP HANA. And so that moment was a pivotal moment in my life that validated that the power of invention, innovation, and later entrepreneurship from Steve Jobs and others, how important it is. If an invention could have stopped Chernobyl meltdown to happen, why don't people like me dedicate ourselves to innovation and invention, and then expanded it to business models as well as technology models.
That's a great segue, actually. You know, and you mentioned being mentored by Steve Jobs, you know, when you were in the Valley, and I want to make that quick segue into innovation, Feyzi. You know, let's talk about innovation. You know, what does it really take then to bring that successful innovation to the marketplace? Does it start at the top, or does it start from the field? And maybe you can share an example or two from your own experience when you brought a successful product in the marketplace and helped make it grow. You know.
Right. That's actually one of my favorite topics. If you search on the internet, there is a Fireside chat I did about 5 years ago with Google for entrepreneurs.
Yes, saw
and
that.
in person.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of positive feedback, including from the professor at UCI who teaches innovation. And
Yes.
he was there. He said for the first time, it was highlighted to his attention the difference between invention, innovation, and entrepreneurship. A lot
Yeah.
of people use the word innovation and entrepreneurship as if they were the same thing. They
Yes.
roll off people's tongues.
Right.
And then very different innovation, like Steve Jobs was an entrepreneur, Steve Wozniak was an innovator. Not that it's a black and white, but mostly if you want to bet on an entrepreneur, Steve's entrepreneurship shined, and then Wozniak from invention and to some degree innovation. So invention is when you invent something that didn't exist before. Let's say you invent a transistor. That's an invention. Innovation is creating intel inside. Say we put the transistor inside the chip and we sell it to everyone, including Michael Dell, who went to school at UT Austin with us, and he created the Dell computer. If Intel had not created the processor and democratized it across everyone, Michael Dell may still be designing the processor. So that's an innovation approach to create a new business model called Intel Inside. And then the entrepreneurship is taking it to market it. So I want to answer your question from three angles. One is invention, which is inventing the fastest database in the world. We eliminated any physical movement. That was way ahead of its time. Then we went with the speed of light. That's why after 30 years, it's still the fastest. And broke the barriers because we didn't know any better. We were a bunch of young people. We didn't know all the reasons we cannot do something, and we did it. That's why as people grow, when they're born, they're genius, and we get de-geniusized, whatever that word is, if you can invent.
Absolutely.
Because the society, the parents, everyone said, no, don't do this. You can't do this. And then we get trained and start creating mental restrictions for ourselves. And then when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's the mojo that you want to market something. And there is a massive graveyard of great inventions and great innovations that they have never seen the light of the day.
So,
by the way,
entrepreneurship is making a business out of innovation.
Taking it to market, different skills. Generally, there are two kinds of people. Occasionally, we see some people who have both the right brain, left brain, and they have successfully combined the two. Part of it is training, part of it is who we are. And that's why it's really important to get to know ourselves, our strengths.
How would you, and I'm glad you said that. So for someone like Elon Musk, would you call him an innovator, an inventor, or entrepreneur, all three?
He is one of the absolute exceptions. And Steve Jobs, again, he was, the entrepreneurship was amazing. Innovation was great. So we can just look at our strengths. For example, with Steve Jobs, I heard the story that they were in that 2-3 bedroom home in Mountain View, and others were sitting in a garage, 3-4 people drinking beer, trying to see what to do with the business. And Steve was in the back bedroom making calls, 200 plus calls to get 250K. This gentleman, Mike, forgot his last name, became a board member at HP. I believe he gave him the first 250K. But he was there and making the calls, others drinking beer and thinking about inventing, innovating, and so on. Different mindsets. Tenacity, you mentioned the 10x rule book. I didn't know that you're also a fan of the book. That's one of the massive textbook on entrepreneurship, on personal mojo, personal energy, and desire to go and make something happen. That you don't make yourself a slave to statistics. You don't say the economy is 20% down or the payroll is 80% down. You say it's showtime. I've been trained, I've been built for this moment. I can, it's like one of these vehicles who goes in the mountains, mountain bike kind of thing, as opposed to something that's designed for automatic highways and so on. So that's the time that leaders, innovators, when there are obstacles, when there are difficulties, you shift into a different gear.
Right.
And all of a sudden you have a reservoir of new energy, determination. You go that extra mile. And as we know, there is no traffic jam on the extra mile.
Absolutely. And on that, I'm going to take a quick poll from the audience about, what's happening and how is the business doing compared to last year. So, and we'll share the results. So I'm going to do a quick poll, and panelists here can also respond to this poll. So it's a state of business. How's your business doing compared to 2019? It's a quick poll. Please respond. And it's all anonymous, so don't worry about it as to who you are and what's going on. I'll just keep it open for another 10 seconds. All right, so we got a few responses here. About 67% are voted. I'm waiting for it to go to the passing grade, or just 70%. There you go, 70% are voted now. All right, give you 5 more seconds before we close it.
Some people may be getting coffee or beer.
Yeah, that's fine. There you go. Let's go end the poll, and I'm going to share the results. So here are the results. How's your business doing compared to 2019, Feyzi? And this is something I thought, let's just do a quick pulse check. 16% really bad, 32% slightly bad, 26% same. And we have a couple, a few actually, almost slightly better is 16 and much better is 11. So definitely a few businesses have come out even better. And we're definitely going to talk about that as to what is it that some businesses are doing differently, in this current situation, and actually doing better than before. So it's great to see that here in our own audience as well. Feyzi, any thoughts on the poll yourself?
Yeah, for us, I was one of the people who voted the same.
Okay.
We haven't seen any major uptick, despite the fact that people say in the computer scenarios and software and so on. But we feel there is a positive energy there. At the same time, the business has not declined for us. So we are grateful for that. And at the same time, we feel really bad for our friends and colleagues, especially those who had a physical business.
Yes.
And they had to show up, and they were in touch with other people. Obviously, those businesses are impacted the most. They cannot just work at home. So we are very sensitive, heartbroken for them. And so there are different strategies for how to deal with adversity. It's basically the whole notion of triumph over adversity. So for people whose business have picked up or is the same, that's very, very positive to hear. And in the past, I've been adversely impacted in a very massive ways. And basically what I did was to, first of all, number one, make sure that I'm personally grounded. Because if I lose my mind, my mood and mojo goes down. As we talked earlier, I cannot be the source of good ideas, innovation, positivity, motivation, inspiring other people. So that became, and for every one of us, it's different how to manage your own personal energy. We can address that a bit later. So one is, number one, to get a hold of yourself. Number two, one strategy that has helped me cope was think of the absolute worst scenario and see whether I can survive it. And that helped me a lot. It said, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not, okay, I lose my business, I lose my home. Am I healthy? Am I in the right mind? How can I take an inventory of everything I know and rebuild? Imagine in the past, people have been, the refugees, people have been in one of the most worst wars, and they lost family members. And so how did they the resilience. So when the worst scenario becomes acceptable or we can deal with it, then we come back and said, what's the scenario that's not as bad? What's the scenario? So for my company, 3-4 weeks ago, we built all these scenarios in a real sense, including shutting down the company, because we didn't know what's going to happen. And that was the first night I could sleep well after a few nights, because we hadn't put the plan. The plan was, okay, we will shut down if that comes to that point. And then, well, what if 50% of your employees get sick? What do you do? You don't want anyone to put more pressure, stress on them. So when that worst scenario was calculated, then we said, why don't we do a 30% scenario, 80% scenario? And that helped a lot. And so there are different strategies to deal with it, as opposed to losing our sense of being anchored and grounded and centered.
Yeah, and I think, and we did do an informal survey, Feyzi, before our webinars this month. And many businesses are struggling. We're talking about small businesses, and I'm really glad that the government is providing them, both the small business grants, the PPP as well as the EIDL. But, in the response to the informal surveys, we saw many challenges. The responses were from how to keep the doors open, losing big customers, cash flow, capital, new sales, retaining, furloughing or firing the employees, employee morale, keeping the focus, as you said, grounded, managing uncertainty, and so much more. I mean, there's just a lot of struggle going on, and definitely to stay motivated. And as you said yourself, your own current company, Corent, is finding some challenges, to do business as usual, and importantly, keep innovating to keep growing. And you have been through 4 challenging business cycles. You've been here since '76. I've been through '87. The .com crash. We remember what happened after 9/11 attacks. The 2005 liquidity, and then the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009. When you've been through many cycles and you survived, and you still having a company of 125 plus people, kudos to you. That's awesome. So what advice would you really give us, our business owners, let's say, who are, let's say, smaller, but definitely they're big dreams, just like you and I and everybody else does. What advice can you give them in these times?
Right. First of all, years ago, I decided to get out of advice business. So whatever I'm sharing my experiences, all right, I figured out I'm not qualified. So I'm happy to share my experiences.
That's fine.
So when I hit adversity of massive scale, I figured out there are 2 strategic way to deal with them. One is disruptive innovation. One is sustaining innovation.
Okay.
So sustaining innovation is within your current business. How can you innovate? For example, years ago, I was giving a talk at USC with IBM, and they said the topic is dealing with adversity and so on. I think this was during the 2008 downturn.
Yes.
And I did a little bit of research that how did people dealt with adversity during depression. And it was eye-opening that somebody who was they were making cookies, like a bakery shop, and people didn't buy as many because they didn't have money. And they invented, or that was probably invention or innovation, you can argue, the chocolate chip cookie was invented.
Oh, wow.
The cookies were here, they put it together, and people said, we got to try this. I mean, chocolate chip cookie, I never had one. So it started something innovative that helped the business. And then another one was people were selling cars. As you know, the cars were very expensive and so on. During depression, that's the worst thing people can buy. This sales rep said, okay, radio has been invented, cars has been invented. Why don't we put a radio inside a car? And then people say, you gotta have, our neighbors have a car with a radio. Why can't we have one? So these are some examples of innovation they didn't have to invent anything in this case. The multivitamin, people were taking like 16 different pills from 16 different, they said, why don't we just do the minimum amount of daily dose and put it in one tablet? So multivitamin wasn't an invention. They didn't discover a new vitamin. It was an innovative way to so the question is, and by the way, the Monopoly game was invented during Depression. People sitting with their families, the work was shut down, like equivalent of shelter in place. And they imagined having all this money and buying buildings and investing. And so at least in their imagination, they escaped the depression that was prevailing. So they say never let a crisis go to waste. So it's up to us to look at a crisis as a disaster, or we look at it as showtime, and not be so locked in to a specific ways of running our business, maybe we are better qualified to run a different business. Maybe we are built to do something else. I have a book in front of me, and it wasn't by any design. I just happened to be here. It's called Success Built to Last. Some of you may have seen the book that came before this with some Stanford people, Built to Last. Built to Last became a massive bestseller, and then came Success Built to Last. One of the authors, Mark Thompson, and his wife, Bonita Thompson, were among the co-authors. And this is not about the companies. And then the other one that came after this was Good to Great, that some of you may have seen, Jim Collins. So this book, Success Built to Last, I believe it came out 2010-ish, became one of the best inspiring, influential, consequential books that I read. It's not about the businesses that have been successful and they have sustained their success. It's about individuals that, despite their failures, despite losing their businesses, their life has been a success. How they were resilient, how they reflected upon their failures, how did they learn, how did they personally grow, so that the next business is a better one and the next one. So in that sense, it's the story of human resilience. So dealing with it from sustained innovation, making some changes, dropping your prices, or delivering food from the restaurant, or a disruptive innovation, completely disrupt and do something that is different, but leveraging your skills, your connections, your social capital, your entrepreneurial attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. And, I'm planning to get another webinar speaker later this month or early next month. And, she is the owner of 3 different wine marts in Orange County. It's called OC Wine Mart. And the business is retail. People go to the wine marts, for buying wine or having that experience with their friends. It's like a restaurant where you can do wine and cheese, and her business just went upside down, because now you can't have the doors open as per the orders of the county and the state. And so she had to reinvent herself, and it's an amazing story of grit. What she is doing now is delivering wine, as well as pickup services, and she's able to put together many different, I would say, packages of wine and cheese, or wine and food, wine and sandwiches, and literally pounding the payment, helping her local clients deliver and get the experience at their homes. And she had to do this on a dime, turn this model on the dime. And I feel like, Feyzi, the companies that do that, the CEOs and leaders who have that tenacity or the foresight or even that aha moment and obviously it's a matter of survival as well, but the ones who are able to, not only would they survive today, but hopefully they're going to find better ways to thrive tomorrow. And what is it about such people? What drives such people?
Yeah, it reminds me of what doesn't kill you make you stronger.
Yeah.
I believe from my perspective and my experience, there's one word that makes a difference. And that one word is mindset.
Mindset.
Mindset. And another alternative word is attitude.
Yeah.
And the mindset or the attitude makes all the difference in the world in terms of, for example, again, my esteemed coach and mentor, Marshall Goldsmith, he signs his emails as life's good. Life's good.
Life is good.
And life's good. And as you know, in Hawaii, there is a t-shirt brand, Life's Good, and it's affiliated with Party. Life's good, just like when we go deeper, we said life as in being alive, it's the biggest gift and asset we have. And again, in 100 years, all of us will be dead. Take advantage of remind ourselves of life is good.
Life is
and
good.
Then on top of it, health is good. And on top of it, so the whole concept of reminding ourselves as the blessings we have and be grateful of all the assets, all the capitals, the health capital, life capital, social capital, being on the greatest country in the history of mankind, the resources we have.
Yeah.
When we look at everything, a friend of mine said, take a large piece of paper, like legal pad of paper, and without thinking, just write down anything positive, past, present, future.
Yeah.
Guaranteed two things will happen. Number one, you always run out of paper. Number two, by the time you run out of paper, you feel like $1 million.
I see.
I've tried this a few times during some down times, cloudy days.
Write down your experience.
That works. You feel how the true wealth of everything we can bring together. And then that recharges our energy to look at the world from the lens of opportunity rather than from the lens of despair. And that, in my opinion, makes all the difference.
Absolutely. And Feyzi, your main topic is transforming your leadership in these times that we are in. And, your experience has been phenomenal, from startups in Silicon Valley to growth companies, various capacities, sizes. I mean, you said you don't want to be an advisor, but I know you can give us some advice, and you have principles. You have 5 principles that you came up with, which are your 5 principles of inside out leadership. I think they will be very valuable for us business owners in this times. Can you please share with us some of that, please? Yeah.
Right. So several years ago, I decided not to give any advice or provide any lecture anyone. Yes. But I reserve the right to share my own experiences because they're my own. Absolutely. And so I would be happy. I was honored to give the first inaugural keynote for fully employed MBAs at UCI, our university down here. These are people who have on average 10 years of experience coming back to Mirage School of Business to get their working part-time MBA, which I did at Santa Clara University. So they asked me to give that talk and again, and I agreed as long as I can share my experiences.
Yes.
We called it upgrading your leadership operating system. In software, dealing with upgrading. And a few days, I did some thinking. I said, how did I develop my leadership skill, which is an ongoing endeavor for the rest of my life. And I came back with 5 specific areas that was really impactful to form my current leadership. And I reserve the right to make the 5, 6, or 7 as I discover different areas. So, and I just made a quick note here. These are 5 masteries. You master the following 5 things that I believe were fundamental, instrumental to developing my leadership. Number 1 was mastering ourselves.
Okay.
Mastering, getting to know ourselves and mastering our mind, mood, and mojo. Mind, mood, and mojo. And that's all internal. managing our internal states. At any point in time, be aware of our energy level, our frequency, what are we exuding, what are we radiating, and how do we feel about it internally without anyone knowing outside, which I believe that's the anchoring, that's the grounding force that makes us a leader to begin with. Otherwise, we're a disaster. Wherever we enter a room,
Absolutely.
people try to look around or leave the room, or they feel the energy level drops. We want to enter the room and everybody feels the energy level is going up. That's the self-mastery. Number two is emotional mastery. Again, goes back to how are we dealing with different emotions. One of the biggest one is anxiety, fear, which during the crisis, naturally we go to fear, we go to anxiety, worrying. Those are feelings, as opposed to being inspired, as opposed to being in terms of a high energy, inspirited state. So there are, so what I'm going to do, Sanjay, anything that I suggest here, I'm going to send you an email, and you feel people don't need to write down everything. I will send it. You can share with them the books, the links, and resources I'm sharing here. So I have a specific training for that self-mastery that I've been enjoying for the last 12 years. Trained me on the self-mastery. It's getclarity.com. The other one, emotional mastery, have been trained under Peter Bregman, who recently wrote the bestseller, Leading with Emotional Courage. That's a game-changing bite.
I see.
The next one is interpersonal, mastering interpersonal skills. Most importantly, when people focus on interpersonal, they focus on how to talk, how to, they're worried about themselves as opposed to how they come across. Because if you care about someone and the person doesn't know you care about them, your coaching will not be as effective as you make sure somehow they know that you're caring about them. Then doing exactly the same thing would be 10 times more effective than if they didn't know. So developing interpersonal, and there is a book by Sam Horn that I've been using for the last 25 years. It's amazing in terms of training interpersonal. And then Say It Skillfully is a new blog and radio show by a dear friend in New York. And I would send those links for people to the links that people want to use. Another one is organizational behavior mastery. And that is Marshall Goldsmith, #1 executive coach, business leader in the world. The book is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. It's 20 things not to do, 20 things to stop doing as leaders. And because the reason we are at the level of business owner, CEO, president, we know what to do. But nobody taught us what are the things we have to stop doing. And organizational behavior mastery is a phenomenal mastery we can get. And finally, business owners, CEOs as a coach. Whether we want it or not, we got to coach our team members on everything that we are working on ourselves. And effective coaching is phenomenal. And The Coaching Habit is a book that is an amazing, influential book. And the new book that came out just last month is The Advice Trap, that reinforced my behavior of do not provide advice. But it's a fantastic, fun book to read. And I was with Michael just a couple of months ago, and he autographed one for me, which I'm very, very honored. So I will share these 5 things with a specific books or links. Others can use. Also, Whitney Johnson, she has a blog. She's a Harvard Business School affiliate, wrote the famous book, Disrupt Yourself. Disrupt Yourself is a game-changing book. And she has these interviews that she podcasts. They're phenomenal. I was honored 2 years ago to be one of them. And a few others that I would be happy to share. Also, during the crisis, it's really important that as business owners, we have a trusted peer group. And that is a must-have. it's not optional. You gotta be a member of a trusted group, whether you form it yourself by calling a few other colleagues and form your own group, at least meeting once a month. Meeting could be on Zoom. I did mine with 10 or 12 other tech CEOs in Orange County yesterday. That was our annual meeting. It was phenomenal having a trusted group of people that they get to know you, you get to trust them, and you permit them to practice carefrontational communication. They can confront you with care. So you're being held accountable. I'm a member of multiple of these groups, and there are some of the busiest people in the world that they say we cannot afford not to be part of these groups. Mutual accountability and sharing information with each other, not necessarily do's and don'ts in the business, but also do's and don'ts of leadership skills, managing yourself, families, and at the end of the day, running your business or changing your business.
Absolutely. And I think these are some huge gold nuggets for everybody here. The trusted peer group. One thing I'm listening to Feyzi, I'm already hearing so many mentors and so many people that have helped Feyzi, along his journey. And, it's pretty incredible, the names he has shared with us today. Feyzi, mentorship, right? I mean, it seems like, is it something required for CEOs nowadays?
There are two, like the difference between innovation and entrepreneurship, or innovation and invention. A lot of people confuse mentorship and coaching. So mentorship is a must-have. If you don't have a mentor, you don't know what you're missing. So that's a must. And I've been blessed. I've been blessed by having so many mentors. Some of them knew that they're my mentors, some of them didn't. But I affiliated myself with them. I was around them, I observed them. So without them even knowing, one of them, after 20 some years, we had lunch and I told him, his name is Bob, Silicon Valley. I said, Bob, you've been my mentor, but you didn't know, did you? I tried to mimic you. I tried to follow. One of the reasons I went to business school, I said, hey, if Bob has his MBA, I want to go get my MBA. By the way, that is not the right decision for everyone, but you find your mentor or role model and you follow and so on. But coaching is a whole different ballgame. Coaching is you connect, you interview some people, you find someone that gets you and compliments you, and you give that person who needs to be professionally trained as a coach, you give that person the permission to hold you accountable.
Absolutely.
And speaking of that, one of the organizations that I've been privileged to be coached by them is the CEO Coaching International. CEO Coaching International. They're now coaching probably 200, 250 highly successful CEOs, barring myself. So don't want to include myself in that. I'm working towards it.
Sure.
And I just remembered that I saw on LinkedIn that they offer one free session to anyone that comes referred by someone. So I would include that link. And if any one of you on this call wanted to talk to a highly successful entrepreneur turned coach, please approach them. Feel free to mention that you came through one of their clients or mention my name. And I would not go forward without either being part of a peer group that you trust and build rapport with the members, like YPO or EO or Vistage, and there are lots of others. Definitely have one or more mentors, and definitely at least have one executive coach. These are must-haves. And the key to my success, relative success, has been, it takes a village to make something good happen.
Absolutely. So Feyzi, I have 3 rapid fire questions, because what I want to do is really take questions from the audience right after.
Yeah.
The first one, I mean, you are a technologist at heart. I know you came from Silicon Valley. You still love technology just like I do. And this is a decade of AI, and AI is really poised to become hopefully as ubiquitous as the internet. And what do companies do? What do companies, AI requires companies to become data driven. So can businesses really transform themselves with AI? And what do you see there? That's number one. Number two, why don't you answer that and then I'll ask the next two because they are similar. Okay.
I give a very quick answer to that.
Yes.
So for small to medium-sized businesses, we
Yeah.
don't have time to understand AI. We don't have time. We want to be digitized. We
Yes.
want to go take advantage of as much technology as you can, because if you don't, you have a disadvantage. 10 years ago was an advantage. Today, if you don't do it, you have a disadvantage. And work with, let's say, software as a service, like Salesforce.com. They are the ones they should worry about AI. They are the ones who should build those leading edge technologies into their solution. You can use NetSuite, you can use Salesforce.com or Sugar CRM, you can use ERP. Try to take advantage of what the technology and automation brings to your business. Otherwise, you'll be at loss.
Got it. The next one, rapid fire. The journey of a business owner, Feyzi, it's long, it's arduous. I think you answered some of it, but just wanted to get a quick thing from you. It is a marathon. And I think at times like this, that marathon just seems longer and longer. How do you do this? You've been doing this for 25 plus years. What keeps you energized and motivated to go at it every day?
One word, vision.
Vision.
And if you have a vision of the future, if you have a vision 5 years, 10 years down the road, if you, for your personal life or for your business life, that vision, like years ago, I climbed Mount Whitney, the tallest in the US, lower 48. I was not in any shape to make it during avalanches or snow and everything. I made it. And people have interviewed me about it and so on. But I had my eyes on the summit. I saw myself standing on the summit. Felt I am there. And then I mustered the energy, the resilience, everything to make it. And then I was certified by a friend of mine, Scott, who was a US Navy Special Operations. So I took other teams and trained them and helped achieving it. But if you have that vision, it's a burning desires, and you see yourself there, you see yourself, and there are a lot of things that are visible but not seen. If we see them, especially we see ourselves as part of it, the chances of making it is phenomenal. That's how I drive. I have a vision to democratize SaaS. To make software as a service available. That's my legacy, life legacy from a professional perspective. So that vision that one day every software in the world within hours would be transformed to SaaS, help with healthcare, telemedicine, education, banking. We are now working on providing online banking to 3 billion unbanked and underbanked people in the world. How is that for a vision to drive you through adversities and difficulties and making the difficult phone calls and begging and borrowing and whatever else it requires for you to drive at that burning vision. And for me, that's how it works. Other people, they have different ways of dealing with it.
I think so. So my last question, and then I can see a couple of them coming from the audience here, is and it's connected to what you just said, the vision. What else is there for you to achieve, Feyzi? I mean, I'm not saying you've achieved everything, but in that sense, where do you see yourself, in 5 years, and what are you going to do today to get there? I mean, is vision part of it? But I'm sure there's more to it.
Yeah, one sacred mission for me is to become the better version of myself.
Okay.
And to serve better. Serve could be as a CEO, serve could be as a mentor to others, which I do at UCI a lot.
Yep.
People jokingly say, I am the most present at UCI for someone who's off the payroll. I just enjoy, it's a joy and a privilege to be there within the incubators and so on.
Yep.
One bigger vision is to bring my solar engineering background at UT Austin and the computer science and entrepreneurship together, and basically be an advocate, a promoter of environmental energy preservation savings through the use of high tech. So bringing software as a service, cloud, and everything else together to preserve water, to preserve our air and natural resources through the use of technology. That's the bigger goal to be for the next chapter.
Right. So let's take some audience questions. I think you did answer, but maybe expand a little bit more, Feyzi. How do you really develop that trusted group for someone who doesn't have it? It's
Right.
maybe, you know,
So,
they need a little direction. I mean, how can you just go about making that group?
Number one, and I'll add some links in the email that I send you.
Yeah.
Contact Vistage, Contact YPO, Contact EO. These are established, proven, managed, well-managed organizations that help create peer group. And then I've seen some friends that either they couldn't afford the fee or they just got a bunch of friends together, send an email to a bunch of people, and started a new group. Maybe I started a LinkedIn group and then turned it into a group. But that's an entrepreneurial effort to create it. If you wanted to talk to me for 15, 20 minutes, I share with you how I did it in the past. Please feel free to contact me. Would be delighted to do that. And
that question was, I'm seeing the name, Asadzi. I hope I'm saying it the correct way, Asadzi. Another question from Satya Tadimati. Early stage startups, when advised by VCs to go dormant and conserve cash during these challenging times, but he's saying he sees it as a risk of losing the team who have been building the product. What's your advice on that?
Again, no advice. My experience is depending on the type of business. In our case, my investors told me do not cut down because the business would be a lot stronger when you come out of the crisis. It's easy to fire people. It's very difficult to hire the right intellectual property trained experts. So don't go with your people who manage businesses by spreadsheet. They may have a different perspective, and it may make sense for some businesses to cut as fast and as deep. I'm not downplaying it, but be mindful, one size doesn't fit all. Don't go cookie cutter. Don't overreact. React in a very in a mindful way.
Absolutely. Question from Ashok. How fast, I mean, this is like, hopefully you have the mirror here. How fast do you think the economy is going to bounce back and how to be prepared for it?
One assumption is go for the worst and assume that your business will never be the same.
I see.
A friend of mine who is in luxury vacation business rentals, he has decided in his lifetime, it will not be the same. So he said, Feyzi, I'm looking at the business which is completely shut down from a lens of a microscope and also from the lens of a telescope. The telescope is how to reinvent the luxury travel vacation business when and if we come out of it. The microscope is, okay, how do I deal with my current assets, employees, et cetera, et cetera.
I love that, microscope and the telescope. I think that's beautiful.
At the same time,
Same time, question from Jonathan. Can you elaborate on the 10X rule? We didn't talk much, but please go.
10X rule is a book that it just happens to be here. The 10X rule by
great book.
It's a great book. It's about multiplying your effort, your mojo, your energy. Instead of going down, have dark days, have light days. Be grateful and be and execute and deliver based on 10X entrepreneurial energy, mojo, and drive.
Absolutely. A lot of great thanks, Feyzi, coming at you. I think a lot of folks love everything that you have shared, not your advice, your experiences. And I think we'll have one more question here from Asadzi again. It's an important question, and you answered some of it, but let's talk about it. During this adversity, how can one keep that optimism? While still dealing with the day-to-day adversities, which we all have. Yes.
One answer is try to meditate. They say prayer is when we talk to God. Meditation is when we listen. When we listen. So have that 5 to 10 minutes of silence go inside and allow yourself to flow and be yourself, connect with the source, and bring the best of inspiration out of yourself. And then the next exercise is do that gratefulness. Just
Great.
every day, think of one item that you're grateful for and let that item drive you and energize you. Focus on self-development during the downtime, developing yourself as the biggest asset in the world that you have. The only asset you have is yourself. And let's end with this quote that I heard from Einstein.
Yes.
I'm just saying it as I remember it. He said, the most important decision we make every single day when we wake up is to decide, it's a decision, to decide whether we are waking up into a friendly world or into an adversarial world.
Ah.
Make that decision when you wake up, and it changes everything that day. And when I practice it, it changes everything that day. So decide whether you're entering a friendly world or adversarial world. And on that note, I'm so grateful to be part of your team. Again, put some collection of resources together. We'll send it to you, Sanjay.
Absolutely.
And once again, an honor and a pleasure to sharing my experiences with all of you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Feyzi, for your time. I look forward to that email from you, sir. And I think it's been a pleasure to have you. These are tough times, folks. Hang in there. I think let's stay hopeful. As Feyzi said, let's be pragmatic. Let's find solutions. There is a solution out there for our businesses. And when Feyzi shares his email and the content, I will forward it to you. Feyzi is such a great gentleman, as you can see. I'm sure if you reach out to him via email, I'm sure he'll find some time for you. Don't expect an overnight reply, but I know that he will. On that note, thank you all for attending, and we will have some future announcements for our upcoming webinars as well. Thank you, Feyzi, again. Thank you all attendees. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.